Good evening, I should say. Good evening, welcome to our agenda prep session. Our meeting will be in October. October 14th, of course, is Columbus Day, but nonetheless at 6:30, the council will have its regularly scheduled meeting. Tonight's the agenda prep meeting. I have before council a memo prepared of a draft agenda, if you will. And I also prepared for council a number of handouts, including my manager's report. If I could get started at the top, under the area of administration, we would like to be able to advertise an ordinance to change the rates related to administrative fees. Administrative fees are a cadre, if you will, of rates and services that we provide for the city. For example, if somebody wants to buy a copy of our ordinance book, a zoning letter, fingerprints, no lien letters, tax certification letters. These are the kinds of things that when somebody's remortgaging their home, they would ask us to look up any liens on their properties. Criminal background or criminal reports and accident reports. The goal for us is to get our fees up to date. For example, a copy of an accident report or a theft report, where we're proposing a $15 fee for that, and so forth. Event application. So there's a number of those. And so what council would do is in October, advertise to have those rates changed, so that at the November meeting, you would vote to adopt the ordinance. Any questions on that? No. We've discussed these last year. We put off doing them until this year's budget and getting ready for 2014. Next item is related to Nixle. It's a community communication service. Many people are now getting texts from public schools or from their church or whatever group they belong to know about announcements, cancellations, and so forth. In the same way, the city will develop with Nixle a free service, free for people who have data plans or email, with their cell phones, and free for the city, just like Twitter and Facebook and Gmail are free. And what we would be doing is producing announcements. Some are alerts, some are advisories, and some are just kind of FYI. And what I would like council to consider is a policy for the use of that and approving that policy in October. This is something, again, we've talked about for a little while, and we're pretty excited about it. I think this past summer with the incident on Lloyd Avenue, it would have been useful to have that. Our goal is to get about 2,000 subscribers or so, and we think that's doable. And people would simply sign up by going online or texting their zip code to a phone number. And once we go public with that, we'll be doing some more press announcements and so forth. Are there any questions related to the Nixle communication?
Good on that.
Okay. The next is an issue that was considered at the September meeting this past September, and that was related to the early intervention program of the Pennsylvania State Department of Community and Economic Development. At that meeting, there was no second on a motion to make a grant request to the state. Since that time, the state and the city have been discussing options whereby we would apply, but without any cash match. We would use in-kind services from St. Vincent College and the in-kind services provided by city staff to be the match, so there would be no cash match. And if you recall, the plan had to do with purchasing of software and working on a business plan for the transfer station. For council's edification, on Thursday there will be a conference call with the state to discuss how that might work at 3 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, where we can discuss, again, questions they might have. So we're looking at having that back on the agenda, so possibly we might get a second and might get a vote. Are there any questions related to the early intervention plan grant application? Maybe. Lastly, under administration is the Westmoreland County Transit Authority agreement for 2014. Annually, we have an agreement whereby we contribute to the county's transit agency and, of course, receive services in town. And it's something that's done every October or so. I don't think there should be any questions on that. Under planning and development, is Ann here? There's nothing on the agenda that we propose. Under public works, we have 4 items as well. One would be to approve a request by Carpenter for the vacation of an alley along the Moose property that they recently acquired. If you can think of how it is that Avenue B, if it were to extend beyond Ligonier Street and head towards the steel company's property, there's an alley back there. It's not named, it's not Avenue B extension. I do have maps. Yeah, I can go see.
Yeah, I can walk by.
Well, I gave, there's one for each member of
I just
council.
need to see it.
I know, but I gave one for each.
We're really excited about the Carpenter. They're after their acquisition here, Specialty Steel have begun to commit a lot of resources in improving the facility. I think $90 million or so is what their investment is over the first 3 years of acquisition. They have purchased the Miz property, and what they're going to do is, in putting a new perimeter fence and improving the landscaping and the, quite frankly, a beautification as well as a security perimeter, to secure the perimeter, they're going to be installing new fence and really, I think, dressing up the area there. So I'm looking forward to how that's going to look. And so, since they own both sides of this little stub of an alley, they're asking that we vacate it. And of course, as you know, it's pretty well known. I guess we don't maintain alleys here in Latrobe, so it's not like it's something that's costing us money to take care of, but nonetheless, it will be their responsibility. Any questions about that?
That'll be a motion to advertise the ordinance in November.
Okay. So you'll actually be adopting it in November after it's advertised properly in October. Second item is a paving change order. Council's already approved the paving program for 2014 as it relates to Josephine Street. Due to our good fortune that the bids came in a good bit lower than we had budgeted, we have some money to improve the drainage there along Josephine. If you remember, our challenge with Josephine was there were springs that were over time, hurting the asphalt, if you will, or the integrity of the road. What we're able to do with this change order is address some more of those drainage issues and get ahead of it. And again, we're just delighted. If you saw what the low bid was, I think the range of low to high bid was about $80,000. The low bidder was $80,000 less than the high bidder. And there's a couple other bids close to the low bid, so it's a good bid. And we, of course, approved it. But this gave us an opportunity to do a change order and add some additional items to the scope. I've already signed it because we're starting September 30th, and what I'm asking the council to do is ratify that signature at the October meeting. Are there any questions related to that? Seeing none, the last 2 items may need to wait till November. One is related to new rates or the fee schedule related to the residential and commercial solid waste and residential recycling services effective January 1, 2014. As you know, Council recently approved the new 5-year agreement with Republic Waste Services, and we will be adjusting our fees to be in sync with those new rates that we're being charged. We are billed, if you will, wholesale, and we then turn around and bill our customers a retail rate and provide that service, and that's what we'll be adjusting. So stay tuned for that. What I will be doing again is working with the garbage committee to work those rates out, and if they're ready by October, we'll do it. If not, we'll do it in November. Again, they would be effective January 1st. We really don't want to wait till December to adopt them, so I'd like to get them done in November the latest, earliest October. Lastly, under Public Works is an agreement with Adelphi on a stub road, if you will, that comes off of Lloyd Avenue. You've seen that probably being constructed, and we would take over responsibilities for it as it relates to being a public street. However, the agreement will have them take care of responsibilities of paving, patching, painting, the electricity, the salt, the plowing, and so forth. And so it's just a small couple hundred feet of road that we would be assuming into our liquid fuels. What the benefit is to the city is it adds to our liquid fuels total, which, as you know, results in a small amount of money from the state annually. That might wait till October or November as well. Under police, any questions on Adelphi? Sorry. Under police, we have one request for a handicapped parking space. I think at the rate we're going on handicapped parking spaces, we're looking at about 10 or 12 a year. Yeah, this is at 1505 Jefferson Street. I can't give you the name. And so that's under the police. Related to my manager's report, and this will be the last item for my report this evening. As you know, it's that time of year, as required by the Home Rule Charter, the managers to give a 2014 budget report by November 1 for the draft budget that you'll be considering in November, December. I plan to get that to you in October. And the bad news is it's going to be a tough budget year. As we know, this year our expenditures are a bit higher than budgeted. While it looks like our revenue is going to be close to what our budget is, that still creates a mismatch, a gap, if you will. Going into 2014, preliminarily, we're going to have to look at both sides of the equation: revenue enhancements or taxes, and service delivery or service cuts. There's no easy way out of it. I think the articles that you saw in yesterday's paper, and I guess maybe today's paper in the Trib, kind of give you an idea that the local governments like ours, who have remained landlocked or kind of stuck with the same geography for decades and built out for those decades, just cannot continue with the course that we have. It's not sustainable. We're not as bad as the communities they've listed. Some of those communities have been in Act 47 for 25 years. We're probably about 20 years behind them. So if we don't change the trajectory, 10 or 20 years from now, we'll be in state receivership. It might be as early as 10 years, who knows? We have to change the trajectory. That means structurally we need to kind of redo what we do. And they referenced St. Mary's, which you may know was a borough in Elk County. It consolidated with Benziger Township, and it went from a borough of 1.1 square miles to a city of 100 square miles because Benziger Township was that big. However, that kind of consolidation can only happen with the majority vote of the electorates of both communities. And because that's the only way to change boundaries in Pennsylvania, it almost never happens. Out of the last 20 years, about 20 or so communities have attempted consolidation through ballot, because that's how it's done, and only 2 or 3 of them have succeeded. And St. Mary's is one of those examples, but it's quite rare. But the difference that we have, you may read in the paper that townships don't raise their taxes, and they'll make a comment, we haven't raised taxes in 30 years. Don't let that kid you. Their taxes have increased, their tax revenues have increased for those 30 years. It's increased because of the amount of development and rateables that have taken place in those communities, something we don't witness here in the city. In other words, we've been built out since 1960 when our population peaked. There's no more housing units being built. There's no more large developments happening. We're pretty much have been built out. That's not the case in a township. So though their tax rate might have remained level at 3 mills, their revenues have gone up, I would say, quite a bit. And if you were able to chart it, it's gone up a lot. So just to give you the idea, it's challenging for us, and the 2014 budget will be very, very hard. And stay tuned. Yeah.
And painful.
Yeah. It's a combination. It'll be a combination of revenue and service cuts. No way around it. Any questions related to specifically to budget or other items under the manager's report?
I have none, Alex. However, I would like to know what the status is right now on the what progress, if any, has been made on legislation regarding rental inspections and/or renter registrations. Have we done anything on? We moved on that at all? Looked at other cities' ordinances with regard to this?
I have to say no, Mr. Baldner. I think I mentioned council. I'm going to be out of town for about 10 days. It's on my agenda when I get back.
Well, we have begun that process, and we talked a little bit about Indiana and a number of other communities where we've looked at the rental registration, and as well as new authorities that the state has given to local governments, related to landlords and property owners who do less than a good job, maintaining their properties.
And with regard also a related area, code enforcement, we talked about putting some teeth into our codes.
It's still on the burner, but not on the front.
Kelly, have we done anything with regard to that?
No, we haven't.
One of the items mentioned in my manager's report is the Act 537 planning, and if Mr. Kelly could give a report on today's meeting of the LMA and UTMA and the DEP, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, I attended a meeting. It was brought about by Mr. Bruce Hirschlag, who is an attorney for DEP, and there were probably 15 or 20 people there, several representatives for Latrobe and the Latrobe Municipal Authority. In Derry Township had a representative, and numerous people for Unity Township and Unity Township Municipal Authority. I thought it was a productive meeting, a good meeting. In essence, it was a settlement conference wherein Mr. Hirschlag still continues to try to have the engineers at least initiate the process to get this resolved. What came out of the meeting essentially was that there will be meetings with the engineers from LMA, UTMA, and DEP. There will be at least 3 to 4 meetings held over the next 3 to 4 months. If an engineering solution to some of the problems that have occurred in the past can be worked out, then that will more or less complete step one. Then the next step is going to be to determine the cost allocation of those solutions. Who should bear what costs, and that will entail further meetings. Assuming that issue can be worked out, then the third issue is going to be the status of the current service agreement between the 3 municipalities. Are there areas of that agreement that ought to perhaps be revisited and looked at? Those are the 3 steps projected out. In return for the agreement by the municipalities to proceed in that fashion, Unity Township will withdraw its appeal to the Department of Environmental Protection. So all in all, I thought it was a good meeting. It's going to give, I think, the engineers for both sides an opportunity to really meet and determine from the DEP engineers what is required, what is not required, and to try to move forward on that basis. So again, it was a good meeting. It lasted almost 3 hours. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Joe, any other progress on the crosswalk, the refinishing?
We found a product that we want to do as soon. We completed our line painting in Latrobe. What we're going to do this year, I hope to get that done before bad weather sets in. We're going to be pressure washing it all and then putting this coating on that I found through Sherwin-Williams.
Have you sampled this?
It'll be sampled tomorrow morning with the manager of Sherwin-Williams.
Thank you, Joe.
That's it for my report, Mayor, and for issues related to the October agenda.
Mayor, you probably want to see anybody.
If anybody who's going to speak about anything, all the people who are here.
Some new faces.
Welcome.
I know a lot of people.
It's there.
Good evening.
You don't need, the mic's not on.
It's not on, okay, good.
The reason that this group of people are here this evening is it's a group of concerned citizens. We made some phone calls today, over maybe Friday as well, and received no phone calls back from the majority of people, so we have no answers to questions we have. There's a property at 713 Weldon Street that we've
Ms.
just...
Leonard, to whom did you make these calls?
to
The code
Barry
enforcement.
Griffin, and to Ann
I
Powell
didn't get a call. When did you call?
this morning. Ann Powell has not called several people back, and some of the people were not able to be here this evening that she did not call back for previous commitments that they had. It's a property in 713 Weldon Street that we are just become aware is a halfway house. What is the zoning on 713 Weldon Street? Is that R1 or R2?
So I just became aware of this Friday, and Alex and I talked this morning. We're currently having our attorneys do some research to figure out, you know, what our options are there. I don't know, Jim, if you've had a chance to do anything yet, or if Alex, you can say any more about it, but
Basically gathering facts.
at this point,
But what is the zoning there? Does anyone here know what the zoning is?
Yeah.
But the reality is, I guess, just to give you an idea, whether it's R1 or R2, it really, under the Fair Housing or Fair, Housing Act, it doesn't allow us to preclude a home of that sort. The definition of family is, through court cases and federal legislation, been, it's pretty wide open. You can have non-related people, as you might with roommates, be they students, or other, situations where people, share housing. And so what they've gotten is protected status through civil rights legislation, ADA, Americans with Disability Act, and the definitions related to disabilities, mental health, and other issues, and the court cases that local governments have lost time and time again have pretty much eliminated our ability, through the definition of what a family is, to restrict group homes in residential districts.
But my understanding was that R1 or R2, whichever it is, does not permit to have cottage industries or multifamily dwellings.
It's
Which
not-
it is neither, Mr.
Yeah.
Leonard. It's not a cottage industry, nor...
But it is a business. Oxford Housing is a business.
It's not a cottage industry.
Okay, but it's a business.
It's
well, it's like a rental property. I mean,
The
the
Supreme
owner's
Court has
rental.
ruled on this. We have no say.
Think of it this way, if you rented your house to my family, that's not a violation.
Correct.
Okay. If you rent your house to the group that are up there under the definitions of the Americans with Disabilities Act, they're a family.
But they're disabled with addiction issues. Is that
I understand
correct?
that.
That's
if
not
you
a
look at the
protected
act,
class.
if you look at the act, if they are in recovery, then they cannot be discriminated against. That's what I teach this at the community college. If they are not in recovery, that's a different
But
story.
if they have a dual diagnosis, I understand that. But if they're recovering addicts, they're not a protected class, is my understanding.
Well, then that's
Sorry,
not
and
correct.
again, I guess to be clear, we are right now doing all the legal research we can. So I think Sunday previous is when the use began to be occupied. I think some of you are already working with the property owner who's entered into a...
No, nobody's working with the property owner. They're not.
I know somebody is specifically getting from the property owner.
No.
Okay, well then...
That's not correct. The property owner has not given...
Would you let me finish, please?
Sure, go ahead.
There's a member of our community
I
who
know
is
who
is
that
getting
is.
the lease agreement, and that they're on their own going to initiate the reviews they can related to the lease agreement to see if there's anything on that side of it. Those are private matters. The city will do everything we can to make sure, people's rights are protected, both your rights as property owners and as citizens and taxpayers,
But how-
as well as the right of the people to have, whether it's a group home or whatever. And this is a community that's not unfamiliar with group homes. We have a number of
I
them
understand
related to
that.
Adelphi and other.
I understand that, but
past
this is an
districts.
unsupervised home. There's no reporting body within that home. Those
I'm-
people
I-
report,
I've
they
recently-
self-govern.
I recently became familiar with their format, but nonetheless, again, we'll do our best.
And
to
we
see
we've
what's
talked to Mr. Kelly, and I reached out to another attorney as well, and well, actually, to Dave, because he's our zoning officer, and he's aware of it too, and all we can do right now is get the facts and
Who
find out
is
the
the
reason.
zoning solicitor?
Dave Rose. And both he and Mr. Kelly have been alerted, but it may behoove the city to seek special counsel as well.
Well, we as concerned citizens, what are our options to do? Are you just going to investigate this, get back to us, let us know? Is that
I'll be
gonna
your
happen
key
at the
person.
next meeting?
Yeah, make calls or communications with me. And
You
yes,
directly, and you will
Yes.
get back to us?
yes.
On this matter? Because,
Yes, I do have something. How can we, as neighbors and neighbors with children, be assured that these people are no longer drug addicted? Who is to tell us
What
that?
you need to do is dial 911. My police chief was there today. He made a visit. I've told my police to,
Did he get in?
he made a visit. I don't know
No,
where
he
he
did
went
not
or
come in.
what he did or what, whether he was on the property, in the property, or what he did. I just don't know. But I do know that I've asked them to, within reason, to make sure things are safe up there. You must call 911 at any fear of threat. Don't let innuendo or you said, she said, or you said, call 911. At the moment you feel like there's an issue, you'll have a Latrobe police officer there within a matter of minutes. That's the most important thing you can do. The reality is, whether we admit it or not, we all have issues. We all have family members who struggle with addiction and problems. And stuff can happen in anybody's household. We don't need a lot of evidence of that. We just need to look at our own households. My kids can behave badly and unfortunately can harm one of your kids, even if we live next door. So even in the ideal situation, bad things happen. But please, be proactive. Take advantage of what you have in the city, which is the 911 service and police protection. If you feel that there's an issue, call 911. And again, that's the primary thing, because that's 24/7, and you shouldn't feel unsafe. This group home is based on a model that can't accept internally bad behavior. In other words, they want to lay low and get their recovery done and make as little waves as possible. Imagine you can appreciate why that would be the case. If they do make waves, they need to be properly reported, and unfortunately, their welcome will be worn out whatever community they go to. That reputation will follow them to next communities and so forth.
what about though, if you looked at their website?
Yes, I have.
All right, do you see how they get into a community and they spread within that community?
Look, the property values of this town and the fact that that home was for sale for as long as it was empty will drive lower income, rental, and other kind of challenges within our community. That's the reality of the changing. We've talked about this, Mr. Bolton, how many times? The changing nature from single-family, homeowner-occupied, executives who run the companies being the flavor of this town, to slipping towards middle to lower middle income to rentals is our reality. Now, the question is, how will we deal with that community change? Because it will be different. It will cause us to see people in situations that we're not used to. It may drive our property values down. That's why code enforcement matters. That's why 24/7 police protection matters. Accreditation matters. That's why rental registration matters. When we have a rental registration ordinance, I can assure you that the landlords of this town are going to come to meetings just like you all are coming and tell us we're taking away their property rights. We have to say, what about the property rights of homeowners losing values within their neighborhoods? And that's what's at stake here. I mean, that's the reality that Latrobe has. We went from 80-90% homeowner occupied to 60%, and it's going down.
But what about Megan law offenders, sex offenders? Do we know if there's any of those people in them?
They have to register. And our police are very, very much on top of those registrations. But again, all I can do as a dad, as a property owner, is say, you have to be vigilant as well. And if you see problems, call 911, allow us to be doing what we can do.
But those people apparently go out and work during the day. When Chief Bumar was up there today, he got no response, no one was there. So someone's going to have to go there after working hours. to do that, to investigate what's there? And is there not any fire ordinance?
First of all, we can't just go there.
Just can't just knock
We
on
can't
doors
just
and
go,
what you
we
do.
can't
Well, can't you
just,
say it's a complaint from the neighbors?
well,
Be specific.
in the nature
Call
of
911.
what?
That's where you
Call
get the
911
complaint.
and
Has somebody hit somebody? Has somebody, the point is, I don't necessarily agree with the court's definition of families that has been imposed upon us since the 1980s. I don't agree with it, but it is the law. And we have to view the occupants there as a family, not your kind of family, not ma, pa, and kids, but there are 4 people there that eat together, clean the house, take care of it. That's a family in the eyes of the law. They will be treated no better or worse than any other nuclear family. So if your child abuses drugs and the police come and arrest him, the same will happen to somebody there. If they let their house go to disrepair on the outside and you let your house go to disrepair, and Powell's going to be up there on both of you. Like it or not, that is the definition of a family.
one suggestion I would have would be to contact your state and federal representatives, because
We're in the process of doing
this is
that.
legislation that we have to abide by.
Well, can I also say that the mission statement of Latrobe wants to provide a well-kept traditional residential neighborhood. The neighborhood should be safe and family-oriented. This is not a traditional residential housing situation.
We can't violate the law.
Let me
We
say something,
can't violate the law.
Rosie, let's accept this as reality, and their presence is real. Have any of you approached them and welcomed them to your neighborhood?
My name is Joe McGraw. I live at 721 Weldon.
Joe.
Yeah, I came home from work the other night, and I had some groceries. And 2 of these gentlemen were out on the sidewalk, and they approached me about what they do about the garbage situation. I gave them a page of stickers, yellow stickers, and I gave them the information about what they can put out for the garbage when they come down and sign up for garbage pickup. I was wondering in my mind why 2 guys moved into the house. I had no idea who they were, and I didn't ask any questions. Now, so I think that, as far as that's concerned, if they ask a question, they probably get an answer.
Have there been any incidents?
Now, I've spent $100,000 on my house since I moved in 2006. Right now, I'm having a roof installed. We take great pride in, all these people have beautiful homes there. We take great pride in it. And that's the type of people Latrobe wants to have to come into the neighborhood. Now, I had a dumpster out in the alley, and for the roof work, I'm having $16,000 worth of a roof replaced on my house now. The other day, I found a television set, a plasma TV, and a toilet in my dumpster that somebody had placed in there that didn't ask me. I have to take the plasma TV out to Ligonier to recycle it. I have to take time out of mine, I have to put it in my truck and do all that work. I have a strange suspicion that maybe these guys put it in there since they moved in. I went down to the police department the other day. I gave them the serial numbers from a rental. Originally it was from a rental store. I don't know if the police followed up on it to try to find out who owned that TV set. It may be those particular people in this house, I don't know.
Again,
But
it
when
may
we
be
do
anybody.
reports of the police have to follow through, I have no idea if they followed through on it or not. There was a serial number on the TV and whatever. Since they just moved in, I had a feeling in my mind, maybe they used the dumpster to throw some things away they had. But that's all the comments I have about that.
But you have
Jimmy check into that?
Yeah, I've written it down, yes.
Okay.
You have to keep in mind, the residents of this home are probably just as fearful of you as you are of
Sir,
them.
70% of the Oxford home people are convicted felons.
Exactly.
So.
Well, and what was the conviction? What was the nature of their conviction?
We don't
It's
know.
probably related to their drug addiction and or their alcoholism.
I guess.
Now, there's not a person in this room that doesn't have a drug addict or an alcoholic in their family.
Well, but that doesn't.
gotta be kidding.
That has
No,
nothing
not
to do
did,
with
Mr. Bolton. It affects every family in this country.
One of my kids were on drugs, I kicked their ass. They're not on drugs. They don't drink, I don't drink.
I'm not talking about your kids, I'm talking about your family, your extended family. We all have them. We all have them in our family. And they are as fearful of you as you are of them. And I guarantee you that their convictions, there's probably 90% of them, and I'm not defending. Look, I live up there too. You guys know that. I live on Walnut Street. Pardon me?
Where do you live?
I live on Walnut Street, the 700 block.
And you're not concerned about this?
No. I hope that this,
Well, when your property values are decreasing.
I'm going to die in that house. I don't care what my
Well, we
my
all
kids
care.
are left.
Wait a minute.
I'm not selling anytime
Okay,
soon.
but we care about our property values.
I understand, so do I.
And we all do, and we understand, and I understand.
It wasn't a funny joke.
We understand your concerns and we share your concerns.
Yes.
Well, I didn't feel that he was sharing our concerns.
No, I'm just trying to be a little bit understanding of their situation and your situation
But I
and
didn't
my
appreciate the
situation.
joke.
Pardon me?
I didn't appreciate the joke, thank you.
Well, I'm sorry if I offended you.
But the bottom line is, you know, our mission statement, I mean, that's the kind of community we want. Unfortunately, we can't violate the law. And as far as we know, they're well within their rights under the Fair Housing Act to do what they're doing and to live where they live. I mean, let's face it, they could, you know, it doesn't have to be in Latrobe. It could be, I mean, they could be your neighbor anywhere, okay? We're just fortunate that if there is an incident, you'll have an officer there in minutes if you guys feel threatened or if something happens. And until we have more research that may tell us differently, I think our hands are tied by the law.
Reach out to them. Go
Why don't
over,
you come over
introduce
and reach
yourself.
out to them?
Pardon me?
Why don't you come over and reach out to them since you live so close?
I will, you mark my word, okay?
Please do that, and please let the neighbors.
Ask them if they need to borrow a mower, or, you know, if there's anything you can help them with. Honest to God, they're just regular people moving into this house, trying to recover it.
You know what, though, but it's in the neighborhood. I talked to 2 young families today, one family that lives there that's now considering moving, and another family of 3 young children that said they were going to start looking for houses there, and they're not going to do it now because of that.
Well, and that is that's
being
a
real
concern.
short-sighted.
No, it's not. You know, if I had young children, I wouldn't want to live
But
somewhere
here's the
where
reality of
there's
the situation, Sue. No matter where you live, you can't control who's going to buy or rent the house next to you necessarily, okay? And that is a problem, okay? I mean, but has there been any incidents
They
at all
just
at this
moved in
point?
a couple of days ago.
Okay,
So no one knows yet.
okay. Yes.
What are the regulations as far as safety codes for the amount of people that can be in a home?
Right now,
Does anyone know how many
the
people are
maximum
living
is
there?
7 that they're able to have there. They have 4 present there now. After the court cases, and it's frustrating. But when communities have tried to use, for example, sprinkler
Wait,
systems.
we know that the maximum there, wait, you're saying, who?
7 is what we have right now, and
who
4
established
is
that?
present there
Them or
now.
us?
The law related to the number of bedrooms in the facility. I've heard everything. I've heard the 15 number. I've heard all of that. What I
They're
can confirm.
advertising online that there are 7 openings in that situation.
Well, then
right
they've
now.
already
As of
posted 4 of them
an
and haven't
hour before
updated
I
theirs.
came online, they have listed that there are 7 openings. If there's already 4 there, that makes 11. That's a concern.
Yeah, well, we don't know that 7 doesn't include that 4, number one, because we don't know the timing of the internet stuff. That's the first thing. The second thing is, again, points out importantly why we need the rental, why we need the rental registration ordinance, so that we can monitor that and make sure that there are no more than 7 people in that home.
I mean, safety is a concern.
But again-
A fire.
If there are regulations, and I can't tell you I know them chapter and verse, but basically it does go by the number of bedrooms. If there are 7 bedrooms in that house.
There are not 7
Well,
bedrooms in that house. There are
whatever the
5.
number might be, that's what they're limited to. It's a square footage or a bedroom issue. But the point being, they're not going to be treated any differently than you would or anyone sitting in the audience.
No, but we have to have
In
safety
terms of that.
issues. We have to have safety issues, and I am not protected handicap, so they would be treated differently.
Say again?
There has to be safety issues when regards to housing. We have to have codes and whatnot for people who are renting. We have to make sure that they are safe.
But ma'am,
Okay.
the codes can't violate the law, okay? The codes can't overstep the law. And if the law says it's based on the number of bedrooms in the home, then we have to abide by that, even if we don't
And
like
again,
it.
when communities have imposed over and above conditions, for example, a sprinkler system, if we said, you know, you need to have a sprinkler system, communities have lost, townships have lost, cities have lost in the courts, because those have been deemed to be discriminatory, backdoor ways to limit their access to the housing.
Are you getting that information from their website?
No.
From where?
I'm getting it from case law. I've been a
Well, you
land use
must have
planner
known
for
about
over.
this a lot longer
I've been on,
than
I haven't.
everybody
I've
else
taught
has.
zoning classes for 20 years. I've been doing
I mean, when did you know
zoning and
that
land
Oxford
use.
House was coming into Latrobe?
I literally found out this weekend.
Friday.
Okay, because they
Friday,
have no
Saturday.
requirement, they have no requirement to get a city approval for this. You don't
Actually,
understand.
Sue, he hasn't, it's not that he's done a lot of work in a short period of time, it's that his background is in zoning and community development and planning and development, and so he understands the laws of it. But I will tell you this, we spent a lot of time on the phone today trying to figure out what was going on and what our options were. Look, I understand, I do, I understand where you're coming from. We certainly don't want to see any of our neighborhoods deteriorate. We don't know that that's going to happen, okay, number one. But yeah, I can understand your concern about your property values. I'd feel the same way. But we got to do the research, and we got to find out more information. But in the end, you know, you don't want somebody banging on your door, coming in to search your house if you don't think you've done anything wrong, okay? So you may have a neighbor who doesn't like you, call the cops on you, and you didn't do anything wrong. They don't have the right to come in and search your house any more than the police have a right to go knock on the door and go search their house and see what's going on in there. I mean, it's just the way the law is. It's to protect. Unfortunately, the laws protect sometimes the people that aren't doing the right things in order to protect the people that are. I mean, so we have to figure it out, and everything's happened so quickly. We're trying to do the research, you know. But you know, if you're mad at anybody, be mad at your legislatures, because they're the ones that pass the laws, not us.
Maybe if I could offer two comments, Rosie. One, back in the 1980s, I think Alex mentioned, Adelphi was opening up more and more homes, and they had to go in and get zoning permission for part of that time. Then the legislature changed the definition of families, and they no longer had to go for zoning approval. The point being, everybody had fear of the unknown. Oh, these people at Adelphi, they're going to break out, and they're going to harm our children, they're going to steal our cars. That was in the 1980s. I cannot recall, and we have several Adelphi homes around here, maybe 4 or 5 or more. I can't recall one incident.
I can't about 4
Maybe,
years ago.
maybe there was one, I don't know. I don't know how bad it was or how, but my point being, the great fear of the unknown never substantially materialized.
You're not comparing apples to apples.
What's that?
You're not comparing
No,
apples
well,
to apples.
I think the apples are a little similar. We're fearing the
No,
unknown.
they're not.
Adelphi homes are super.
No, because the Adelphi homes are treating minors that are adjudicated. They are with counselors and resident assistants that are caring for them. The Adelphi program, which is a very good program, takes in loco parentis care of those students. They become, or those individuals, they become the parents.
But
that is different.
That wasn't the
and they are living with them.
Jim, the issue is,
Well, it is now, though.
They are living with
I
them.
think you would be less concerned if there was supervision there. My guess.
Well, there would be, yes. I mean,
But
if
you
you're
have to understand,
comparing,
too,
if
that-
you're comparing, you
Yeah.
have to compare the same thing. This is an unsupervised. Adelphi has many, many supervisors living with their, in their group homes.
24/7.
You have to understand
All the
something
time.
too. I don't know, I mean, I did a little bit of research today on this organization, so I don't know a lot about it. But my guess is that they're getting government funding for a lot of what they do. They're going to be held to some guidelines as well, and if they aren't, then they won't be around for very long either.
You know, they have over 1,000 of these houses, so I'm guessing, and I'm only guessing, things can't be that terrible, or they wouldn't have that many houses.
But they're not buying the homes, they're leasing the homes.
Well, that's,
They still have 1,000. I would think if things were that terrible,
for about 25
they would have been shut down a long
Right, so-
time ago.
I mean, we're just going to have to.
I'm not trying to stick up for anybody, but I'm just saying, we do have to follow the law, just like every other community.
And again, just to be clear, they have violated no rule or law currently. They are within the bounds. They did not need to get approval of ours to do what they're doing. And I know that may sound very unfortunate, but it's a private sector, private market transaction whereby one is getting lease or rent from another. And it's just, again, if it was, we would have closed them today.
Okay, I didn't understand, I wasn't clear. Were you telling us that there are only 4 people in that house, and how would you know that?
I was told that today because
By
Ann
whom?
Powell
By
made a
whom?
visit today.
By whom?
Ann Powell made a visit today and talked to, I know the term supervisor isn't what we would refer to it as, but their model of rehabilitation is such that they, you know, I would joke about it because you
Well,
approach
I
off
think
the
she better
island.
pay
They
another
vote.
visit.
They vote on who their leader is, just like you vote for a chairman of your council or whatever committee you have. And that person spoke with Ann, and that's where she got those numbers. But again,
Ma'am, are you saying there are more?
I am thinking there are more.
I mean, Alex, did we contact the organization and have them provide for us some verification?
Yes.
Of who is in the
again,
house?
yes, very much.
I think that's certainly reasonable, and then if we find out that they're lying to us, then we have a different recourse.
Thank you.
Now, I'm sorry, what organization would you be contacting? Oxford House?
Yes.
Well, they could call from anywhere. How would they know unless they make a visit themselves?
Well, they have to be putting the people in the homes. I mean, are you thinking that some of these people are just inviting other people to come stay with them?
Could be.
Well, that's
Could be.
what it says that on their website.
I would imagine.
It's a referral system that's set.
Right, but I would imagine they have to register with the Oxford House because, you know, I mean, again, this is stuff we gotta find out. We gotta find that out, and like
So
I
now,
said,
if
this
we
is
see
Monday, we found out
5
Friday.
cars showing up, or cars showing up late in the morning, early in the morning rather, and we think drug activities being,
Call 911.
and what's going to happen?
The cops will come up and they'll see what they can find
They
out.
can't go in.
But they won't be able to go in.
Well, it depends. It depends if there's reason, if there's probable cause, if they see, you know, I mean, it depends if they're,
Another thing, there's been a lot of activity up on Weldon Street lately. When I moved in, I had packing boxes in my garage. I had the garage door wide open all night long. I had no worry or no concern anything would happen, and everything was in place the next day. But now we've had the issue where the automobile had the 4 tires, the 4 wheels stolen off of it. I don't know if anybody's ever solved that case. We had cars broken into with change taken out, and money and things stolen out. I had my truck spray painted.
if that happened before this.
No, yes, that happened. You're saying the Delphi House is not responsible for this, but we don't really know that because we don't know if these people have ever been caught that have committed these crimes. And we know from reading in the newspaper that probably 80% of the crimes committed around here are committed by drug addicts. That's a fact. If you read the paper and you see the decision of the judges, it's a page long every day in the newspaper. And all this activity is done by drug addicts.
Right, but the other fact,
And we have to do
involved in
something in
that
this
is that we
city
don't-
about the drug addicts.
Right, but the
Something
drug-
has to be done.
the drug addicts don't necessarily live here. That's the other issue we have.
And we know that
They
that's not the
live-
problem.
They don't all live in Latrobe. They live, I mean, the drug problem is a national problem
We know
that
that.
every community is having everywhere. And if you look at some of the statistics on the website, I mean, this area in Westmoreland County is heavily populated, but it's not, it's the whole county, it's the whole country.
But
So,
what are we in Latrobe doing about it? We've had a situation where the pharmacy was robbed, the gentleman had a shootout with the police. It's getting bigger and larger and larger.
absolutely.
And we have to do something about the ones that are here now.
And that's why we
The
have.
two fires in the city, who committed the 2 fires, the arson? Did they ever find out who did that? And I bet it was probably people that were drug related.
I mean, most crimes, I would imagine most crimes committed in this country are
So
drug related.
what do we as a city do about it?
Well, I mean,
What's
I
the
know,
answer?
I know
I
that
really
we're-
love the line of questioning. It's very important to us. We had a drug summit this past year. We are exceeding drug task force activity in this city by about 40% over previous years. As many of my police force now are involved in the drug task force that's funded by the Attorney General. We're looking at restarting once again neighborhood crime watches. That was something I believe under Chief Huska that was kind of going, became dormant. It's becoming active. The Nixle communication platform that I described earlier will allow for more two-way communications to occur. Where tips, I have drug forms up here. How many of you filled out a drug form? Please do. You can do that online. We never had a drug form online last year. We didn't have drug summits 2 years ago. We didn't have drug task force activity. The line of questioning is wonderful. We need neighborhood participation. We need people wanting to do what you're doing tonight, which is to be engaged, which is to be motivated. This drug issue, the reality Rosie was trying to say is, the 8,000 people that we're charged with overseeing here, and the police force is paid for by those 8,000 people, are sitting in the middle of a market trade area of about 35,000 people. And the weight of Unity and Dairy Township bear down on this community. They provide no local police. We provide it all. Those state police could be anywhere doing any kind of activity. So this is why this is all related. Those folks who may be stealing coins or tires off of cars may then go home that night into Unity and Dairy. And again, there's no local police there looking after that. Good luck calling the state police on those kinds of issues. But if you have problems, when you call, I can't guarantee you our police are going to solve every crime, but we need to be vigilant. We need to invest more in that, and I think what we can have out of this tonight, the productivity is, maybe the neighborhood crime watch starts at 713 Weldon or whatever, and Weldon Street, and the Hill becomes an area where we get back engaged at that.
And the one thing I hear quite frequently from people is they talk about seeing things but not calling 911. Well, by the time the cops get there, it'll be over. Well, you know what? Call them anyways. If you see something that is, you call 911.
And the drug
we
forms
never know. And the
specifically allow us to set up surveillance. We invested this year in a wireless camera system that I can use wireless cameras to set up surveillance in areas where I couldn't before. Let's face it, the druggies know when the cop cars are coming, they leave. But I can set up cameras and do those kinds of things. Again, how many drug forms have been filled out and submitted? Please take one with you tonight. Tell us the time, date, places. We'll use that to do surveillance and undercover work. And the drug task force works like this. Officers from outside the area will come undercover into our community because they're not known and they wouldn't be recognized, and make buys and sales to do probable cause. Unfortunately, as you know, reading the paper, our judicial system is recycling these guys. They're just coming back out and coming back out and coming back in. In fact, the incident we had here in Weldon, at the 400-500 block of Weldon, those folks are living at Chestnut, and my drug task force guys tell me they're concerned they're dealing again over there. It's like, are you kidding? While they're under, the court bail over here, they might be making more sales. I don't know how they pay their bail.
And can I say that could be something we're worried about also with Oxford House? Somebody relapsing and staying there and selling the drugs out of the home and getting the other ones.
It's a real concern.
It is huge. If it does happen, that's where the citizens who live there have to say, whoa, we're seeing something that's not looking good, report it. But until it happens.
And I understand that. I understand.
These people may be the best or the worst. I don't know. But right now, that's all I can say. Don't know.
Our car was broken into this February. And when the officer came to our house, this was his response. Oh, well, it was just a junkie. And that was the end of our report. So tell me then, calling 911, whatever we do, okay, we may be safe then, but oh, well, it's just a junkie? I don't see where that is an answer.
Please, take my report, take my phone number, take my cell phone number, take my card. That happens again, I'll have a discussion with that officer. The reality of the home rule charter is I actually supervise the police through the police chief. Just like I have a fire chief here, who would not find it acceptable for one of his officers to behave badly and blow off somebody's concern for their property protection. My chief doesn't tolerate that either, our police chief. And we will have a conversation with that officer. And it might be as basic as helping them understand a little bit of customer community relations, but also is important to taking it seriously. Look, if it's serious enough to make a 911 call, if it's serious enough to you, it's serious enough to us. Call me and say, Alex, this happened last night, and I don't know the officer, but it was this. I know who worked. It's a small town, there's only 11 of them. I'll go into my chief, we'll have a discussion, and through the bargaining unit's protective rights of unions, we will ask that person to sit down with us, have a conversation that will be, do you understand that it mattered to this person, that your comment was less than acceptable? Now look, please understand, we have an excellent police force in this town, a very highly trained force, who may have, and I'm not making excuses, just had something that none of us have ever experienced happen an hour ago. And in the scheme of things, may have been less than gentle in his customer relations. We've all had bad days. I hope you can understand what I'm getting at. That officer may have just come off of something that was scary and no one would want to see. And he may have behaved badly for a moment. That's not acceptable to me, and I'll have a conversation with him, but please understand, these officers are well-trained. They have worked there for a long time. They live in your neighborhoods and in the surrounding community. They have kids who do stuff with your kids and so forth. So it's not like they're amateurs.
The other point,
and though it may seem like they didn't care at that minute, they put on that badge every day because they do care. And I'll defend that to the hill. But if I know they behave badly, I'll also correct them and say, you know what, we got to do better, guys.
the other point I think that is important to make, and this isn't a criticism, but you probably got a relatively quick response to your phone call. You probably wouldn't see that in the township simply because the ratio of people that live there to officers that are available and are in that area. So, I mean, we have to realize that, you know, every time I've had to call 911, I've gotten a response pretty darn quick for things that would not rise to that level outside of a community that has its own police force. Alex, would you agree with that statement?
I mean, typically, you guys know, if you have a fender bender out of Walmart, getting the state police to come for that, you're going to be there 40 minutes at least. Here, you have something at Shop and Save, they'll be there within 5 minutes taking your accident reports and doing whatever it is. But back to you, ma'am, please. If there's any information we can share outside of the meeting about that incident, that concerns me. I don't want my officers giving the impression that your concern isn't their concern. That's just not tolerable.
So you're going to do the investigation?
We are
And you will get back
investigating
to-
how this Oxford House is behaving or whatever it is that they're doing and learning, fact-finding as much as we can. At
And
the
then
same
you'll
time,
report back
we
to the
will
concerned-
try to find out how they have been doing what they've been doing in other communities. Maybe we can learn what the pattern of incidences are there. We will at the same time make sure that, you know, the officers, just like they are keeping track of Amber Alerts, whatever, you know, the different notices that they get related to child incidents, child molesters, those kinds of things, that they're on top of those Megan laws, you know, that they've kept those, and that we try as best we can to know who's doing what there and how it's working. We need you to cooperate with us. I have these meetings twice a month, but I'm available pretty much anytime during the week, every day of the week. Come to me if you have a particular, but in the meantime, I'll be making reports to the council. I assume your elected officials are going to hold me responsible for what's going on up there.
Yeah.
Correct?
So you're going to report back at the next council meeting? Is that the?
I mean, yeah, we'll be keeping them abreast, yeah. Please, stay tuned, keep coming.
We can request it to put on your agenda for the next council.
Yeah, can we have it on the agenda for the council meeting?
It will be part of my report. The agenda is related to action items of the council.
But so it will be on the agenda for the next
No.
council meeting?
The manager's report will include updates of what I've found
Well,
out.
why can't we discuss this again in 2
You
weeks?
can. When we get to the citizens request portion of the meeting, you
The
know.
manager's
But
reports
usually we get a couple of minutes to say
can be found
something.
online and are available.
But I thought if we came tonight, we could have it on the agenda, because usually if somebody gets up here and says something, sometimes certain members
But what
of
would be the
council
action,
have witnessed it.
what action are you asking council to take?
investigation into this Oxford House.
That's going to be done, but there's, to vote is what
The
I'm
agenda requires a motion of some sort for it to be on the agenda. In other words,
It has to be an actionable item. I mean, that's just the rules of.
And again, it's good that you've come to this meeting as well as coming to that meeting.
One thing you're talking about, Alex, is in the manager's report, you're going to give them some information, what you found out so far.
And we'll
Is that what you want to, right?
Yeah, we
You
want
want some information of what's going on.
answers, we want
And I think
information,
Alex
we want a
told you.
solution to this. Because
No,
I
you
think
said you
there's
didn't
another
look into it,
house
right?
that's for rent over on, what is that, Fairmont Street? They could just snap that one up as well, and there could be another halfway house in the neighborhood.
Right.
Mr. Alex said he's going to try to find out as much as possible and let you guys know what's going on, some of it.
Right.
Other comments? That's it for my.